this is Dr. Bam. So this is Unit 2, and this is the foundation video for Unit 2, which is Conception, Heredity, and Prenatal Development. And we also go into the birth and the newborn. And so in Unit 2, you have Competency 2, which is to understand, and it's really a two-piece competency. The first is to understand conception, hereditary, and prenatal development. And the second piece of Competency 2 is to examine the birth process and the newborn experience. So in this unit, what are we looking at? We're looking at what genetically happens from the moment of conception through the birth process, or through when the infant is born. And then we are going to get into the infant stage after that, but this is really from up until that newborn occurrence, so within the first few days of birth, after birth. And we're going to look at a bunch of stuff: genetics, chromosomal disorders. We're going to talk about prenatal, typical prenatal development. We're going to look at some atypical prenatal development, including, we also discuss the impact of teratogens, a word you've probably never heard, but are frequently talked about. So you actually probably know many a teratogen. I'll be interested to see where the aha moments happen there. So we will look at a typical birth process. So there's a lot of things that could happen atypically, but we're going to look at the vaginal birth process, and we'll talk a little bit about a cesarean, which are the two most common ways that birthing can occur, but we don't go that deeply into cesarean, but we look more so at the typical vaginal birth process. So, and then we'll also look at what happens right after birth, and what do newborns have to do, and what problems can arise, and things like that. We covered 2 chapters in this unit. First is chapter 2, and second is chapter 3. Chapter 2 is a very long chapter, and that's looking at conception, heredity, and prenatal development. Chapter 2 is much shorter, looking at the birth process and the newborn experience. There will be some sections that I don't go into at all in these 2 chapters. I pick out the things that I know we'll need to have to reference for future development, but some of the stuff is kind of extra outside of the outcomes that we have for this course, and so I don't actually go into that. So with that being said, you are going to want to read chapter 2 and 3 of your textbook. Like last unit, of course you can access your full PDF textbook from the link on the materials page, but you can also access just the chapters for this unit, chapter 2 and chapter 3, right here. And if you want to print them, that is up to you. This unit is also, once again, same thing, concept-based, working through these concepts. I was out sick last week, and so I did not get things graded in the manner that I would like to have gotten them graded, but I will catch up on grading. And remember that if you don't receive full mastery on a concept, you have the right and ability to resubmit up to twice for increased mastery. And so this unit will have 20 concepts, I believe. And you can see why after the last unit, which was very intense and heavy information, we're going to be probably pulling back a little bit and in concepts. This is the last unit that will be 2 weeks long, and so everything in this unit is due by February 15th. And then the next unit will be 3 weeks long. We'll be covering actually 3 chapters and diving into our developments by stage, and so taking a look into our infants. And those will now be 3 weeks at a time, and you should be progressing through each week. Remember, each week, this is a 3-hour, 3-credit course, you should be spending 3 hours per week. So if it's a 2-week long unit, it should take you 6 hours approximately, depending on your pace, to work through these concepts and information. And so people are like, this takes so much time when they're waiting to the end. So this should be spread out as if you're attending class and doing your lectures and demonstrating your understanding of content. It is not meant to be weighted. It's not designed for you to wait until 2 days before all the assignments is due and go through it. Now, if some people want to do that, maybe time permits, you have one Saturday and that's how you would like to spend your Saturday. Take 6 hours and just work through a unit, that is also fine with me. So just as long as it is completed before the due date. Just recognize that is the course design, is that it's meant to break it down into pieces and be completing it as you would through lecture and lab and all of that in a face-to-face format. So have a great unit, and as always, let me know if you have any questions.